My father waited until I set the Thanksgiving turkey on the table before telling me I had 3 days to leave his house. "You've become a parasite, Claire," he said. "Pack your things. I want you gone by Sunday." That morning I had spent nearly $200 on groceries. I had cooked every dish in front of him. My paycheck had kept the electricity on for the past 3 months. And 20 minutes earlier, when I announced my promotion, the only thing Dad asked was how much more money I would be bringing home. But the person who truly broke me was my mother. She did not tell him to stop. She did not ask where I would sleep. She touched the sides of her mouth and said, "You'll still send the $1,850 to my dentist before you go, right?" That was the moment I understood. They were not afraid of losing a daughter. They were afraid of losing access to her bank account. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 27 years old, working at a rehabilitation clinic outside Columbus, Ohio, when my family decided I was useful enough to support them, but not important enough to respect. Our Thanksgiving table looked like thousands of others across America. There was a golden turkey sweet potato casserole covered with toasted marshmallows, mashed potatoes, green beans, canned cranberry sauce, and 3 pies cooling on the kitchen counter. A football game played quietly in the living room. Dry maple leaves scraped across the driveway outside. The dining room smelled like butter, cinnamon, and sage. From the street, we looked like a normal family having a peaceful holiday. Inside, my father had just removed me from it. Raymond Bennett sat at the head of the table with his shoulders squared and one hand wrapped around his water glass. He did not look surprised by his own words. He had planned them. My mother, Elaine, sat beside him staring at her plate. My 18-year-old sister, Lily, held her fork halfway to her mouth. No one moved. "You heard me," Dad said. "Sunday afternoon. I want the room cleared." I looked at him. "You're giving me 3 days. You're 27. You shouldn't need more than that." "I stayed because you and Mom asked me to." His jaw tightened. "We asked you to help temporarily. We did not ask you to take control of the house." "I didn't take control. You moved accounts into your name. You questioned what we spent. You acted like every decision required your approval. The electric company was going to shut off the power." "There," he said, pointing his fork at me. "That is exactly what I mean. You always have to remind everyone what you pay for." "I didn't mention money until you called me a parasite." "You didn't have to. It is the way you walk around here." I almost laughed. For 3 months, I had tried to make myself as small as possible. I bought whatever groceries they requested. I paid bills quietly. I stopped mentioning how much came out of my savings because Dad became angry whenever the subject came up. I even hid the envelopes from the utility companies after I paid them so he would not feel embarrassed. Nothing I did was small enough. 20 minutes earlier, I had told my family that I had been promoted from scheduling assistant to office coordinator. Lily jumped from her chair and hugged me. Mom said, "That's nice." Dad asked, "How much more does it pay?" When I told him, he nodded once and returned to his food. I had convinced myself he did not know how to express pride. Now I knew he had simply been calculating. I placed my knife beside my plate. "All right." Dad blinked. "What?" "I'll leave." His expression changed. He had expected tears, maybe yelling, probably an apology. What he had not expected was agreement. "You think you're proving something by acting cold." "I'm not acting cold. You're sitting there with that look on your face." "What look?" "Like you're better than us." My hands were trembling beneath the table. There was nothing superior about the way I felt. My chest hurt so badly that taking a full breath required effort, but I refused to give him the scene he wanted. "I understand what you're asking," I said. "You understand that this family is tired of being controlled." Lily put down her fork. "She doesn't control anyone." Dad turned toward her. "Stay out of this." "She bought my laptop. She pays for the internet I use for school." I said, "Stay out of it." Lily's shoulders folded inward. I knew that movement. I had spent half my life making the same one. Mom finally cleared her throat. "Claire." I turned toward her. A small, foolish part of me still hoped she would defend me. Instead, she touched the side of her mouth. "The dental payment is scheduled for Friday, correct?" I stared at her. "You're asking me about the payment. I will lose the appointment if it does not go through. Dad just told me to leave." "I know this is upsetting," she said, lowering her voice as if I were the one causing a scene. "But please do not ruin dinner for everyone." The words landed more sharply than Dad's insult. Dad nodded toward her. "Your mother has waited weeks for that treatment. Moving out does not excuse you from keeping your commitments." I looked around the table, at the food I had purchased, at the repaired clock in the living room, at the new refrigerator humming behind us, at the faces of the people who accepted everything I gave them, and still found a way to call me selfish. Yes, Mom, I said quietly. I remember. Her shoulders relaxed. Good. That one word ended something inside me. Not my love for her. Love does not disappear simply because someone proves they do not deserve it. What ended was my belief that if I gave enough, she would eventually choose me. I picked up my plate and carried it into the kitchen. Behind me, Dad started eating again. The scrape of his knife against the plate told me my departure required no mourning. At the sink, I stared through the window at my car. It was the only valuable thing I owned that was not attached to the house. The refrigerator was in my name. The internet account was in my name. Both family cars were insured through a policy connected to my checking account. The groceries, heating bill, cell phone plan, and streaming services all came from my paycheck. When the porch railing broke, I paid $600 to repair it, because Dad said the neighbors were beginning to notice. Yet somehow I was the burden. Lily entered carrying 2 glasses. She set them beside the sink and looked toward the dining room. I'm sorry, she whispered. You don't have to apologize. I should have warned you. My hand stopped beneath the running water. Warned me about what? Fear crossed her face. Dad called from the dining room. Lily, get back in here. This is still a family dinner. Her eyes met mine. I'll come to your room later, she whispered. Then she returned to the table. I finished the dishes alone. At 1:18 that morning, I sat on my bedroom floor surrounded by boxes. Every few minutes, I stopped packing and listened for footsteps in the hallway. I was not afraid my parents would stop me from leaving. I was afraid my father would decide everything in the room belonged to him. The shelves, the desk, the chair, the bedding, the lamp I had bought during college. Dad had a simple view of ownership. If something entered his house, it became his. If someone earned money under his roof, part of it became his. And if he raised a child, that child grew into a debt he expected to collect. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a folder of receipts. I needed to identify which bills were in my name and which purchases I could prove were mine. A glossy brochure slid from between 2 utility statements and landed on the floor. I picked it up. It was from a used recreational vehicle dealership. A 24-foot travel trailer had been circled in blue ink. The photograph showed a smiling couple sitting beside a lake. Beside the price, someone had written, "Deposit safe. Claire covers November. Pickup December 4th. I recognized my father's handwriting immediately. For several seconds, I could hear nothing but my own breathing. The heating bill, the groceries, the insurance, Mom's appointment, Thanksgiving dinner. They had not simply accepted my help. They had planned around it. A soft knock came from the door. Lily slipped inside and closed it behind her. When she saw the brochure, the color left her face. You found it. I looked at her. You knew. She sat on the edge of my bed. I knew about the camper. How long? Since the beginning of November. And you said nothing. The words came out harder than I intended. Her eyes filled immediately. Dad said anyone who warned you could leave too. He said he would take my car and refused to finish my financial aid forms. I looked at my sister. She was 18, but she still slept in a room covered with high school photographs and college brochures. Her car was registered in Dad's name. Her college plans depended on documents our parents had not yet completed. I wanted to be angry with her. Instead, I saw another version of myself, one who had not yet discovered that fear did not always have to win. What exactly did you hear? I asked. Dad said they should wait until after Thanksgiving because you always pay everything early. Mom said they needed to make sure her dental transfer cleared first. My stomach tightened. They planned to throw me out. Lily nodded. Dad wants your room for his fishing equipment and camper supplies. I looked around the room. My room. The room I had repainted with my own money. The room I had stayed in because my parents begged me not to move out when Dad hurt his back. Now they wanted it for storage. There's something else, Lily said. What? Mom's appointment. I waited. It isn't emergency dental work. What is it? Veneers. The word sounded ridiculous. She told me she had an infection. She hates how her front teeth look in family pictures. She told Dad you would not pay if you knew. I sat down slowly. 3 weeks earlier, Mom had called me crying from a grocery store parking lot. She said the pain kept her awake. She said she was afraid the infection would spread. I transferred money from my emergency fund that afternoon. I delayed replacing 2 worn tires. I stopped buying lunch at work. I ate noodles and peanut butter sandwiches while my mother planned a cosmetic smile makeover. Lily rubbed her palms against her sweatshirt. There's more. I looked at her. One night, Dad left the banking page open on the family computer. He has over $8,000 saved. Are you sure? I saw it. He told Mom not to touch it because it was for the camper. My hands went cold. At the beginning of August, I had more than $10,000 in savings. I opened my banking app. Current balance, $1,126. I showed Lily. Her mouth opened slightly. That's all you have? That's all. I thought you made good money. I make enough to support myself. I don't make enough to support 4 adults and a camper. A small broken laugh escaped her. Then she covered her mouth, afraid our parents would hear. I opened the pending transfer to the dental office. My finger hovered over the cancel button. I pictured Mom crying, Dad shouting, aunts and cousins hearing that I had canceled my mother's medical treatment. The guilt arrived before I even made the decision. For a few seconds, I nearly closed the app. Then I looked at the brochure again. Claire covers November. I pressed cancel. Afterward, I stared at the screen and felt sick. Are you okay? Lily asked. Number. You did the right thing. I know. Then why do you look like you're going to cry? Because knowing something is right doesn't make it easy. I changed my banking password, then my email password, then the password to every household account attached to my name. What are you going to do? Lily asked. Leave. What about me? The question hurt more than anything my parents had said. I'm not disappearing. What if Dad stops me from talking to you? Then we find another way. What if they start treating me like they treated you? I had no comforting lie to offer. They might. Her face crumpled. For one terrible moment, I considered staying. I imagined unpacking the boxes, continuing the internet service, paying enough bills to keep Dad calm until Lily left for college. 8 more months. Maybe I could survive it. Then I looked at my bank balance. I remembered Mom saying good after I promised the payment. Staying would not teach Lily that family protected one another. It would teach her that mistreatment was the price of peace. I took her hand. I'm not abandoning you, I said. But I can't save either of us by letting them destroy me. She leaned against my shoulder. I'm scared. So am I. You don't look scared. I am. I just don't want Dad making my decisions anymore. On Sunday morning, my parents left for church without speaking to me. At 9, my coworker Nadia arrived with her hatchback. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her cousin Marcus and an elderly beagle named Walter. When I told her what happened, she did not ask whether I had misunderstood my parents. She did not say family was complicated. She looked at the boxes and said, "Tell me what belongs to you." The question nearly made me cry. No one had asked what belonged to me in a very long time. We moved my clothes, books, desk, chair, mixer, and small television. The desk would not fit in either car, so I left it temporarily. I left the living room television even though I had paid for it. I left the refrigerator. I left the microwave. I wanted freedom more than I wanted an argument over appliances. Lily stood on the porch while we loaded the final box. She hugged me so tightly my keys pressed into my ribs. Text me when you get there. I will. Claire. Yes, I'm proud of you. No one in my family had ever said that to me for choosing myself. I held her for another second. Then I drove away. My parents returned 15 minutes later. Dad called 19 times. I did not answer. Mom sent one message. You took the stand mixer. I need it for Christmas cookies. She did not ask whether I had somewhere safe to sleep. She asked about the mixer. At Nadia's apartment, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a yellow notepad. Walter slept against my foot. I listed every account in my name: electricity, gas, internet, cell phones, car insurance, streaming services, the refrigerator payment, Mom's dental plan. I removed my payment information. I did not shut off the power without warning. I kept the internet active long enough for Lily to finish her college applications. I paid the last refrigerator installment because I had already promised to do so. Then I stopped. It was not revenge. It was the end of an arrangement I had never agreed to. Nadia placed a mug of coffee beside me. How much do you have left? A little over $1,100. You can stay here until you find a place. I'll pay rent. You can help when you're stable. I don't want to become a burden. She sat across from me. You asked about rent before you even brought in your bags. You are not the person taking advantage here. I looked down at my notepad. I don't know how to accept help. Then start here. We are not going to use it against you. Walter lifted his head and pushed his nose against my knee. Nadia smiled. He may charge cheese. I laughed for the first time in days. Monday afternoon, Aunt Rose called while I sat in my car during lunch. Rose owned a small diner where our family celebrated birthdays, graduations, and Mother's Day. Her voice carried the careful disappointment of someone who had already chosen which version of the story to believe. Your mother says you walked out because Raymond asked you to show more respect. He told me to leave. She said it was an argument. He called me a parasite and gave me 3 days. Parents say things when they are angry. He planned it before Thanksgiving. Rose became quiet. How do you know that? I found his camper brochure. It said he would finish paying after I covered November. A camper. Ask him. Claire. I'm not trying to choose sides. You called to tell me I abandoned them. I'm trying to stop this from getting worse. It was already worse before anyone called you. Rose sighed. They want a family meeting at the diner on Saturday. I closed my eyes. Dad did not want a conversation. He wanted an audience. I'll come, I said. Within an hour, the family group chat began filling with messages. Your mother is devastated. You only get one family. Parents sacrifice everything for their children. Then Dad posted, some children forget who fed them the moment they start bringing home a paycheck. Several relatives reacted with heart emojis. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. For a moment, I typed a response. I paid your electric bill. I paid your insurance. I paid for Thanksgiving. Then I deleted it. Saturday would be the last time he controlled the story. That evening, Mom called. I answered because Lily had not replied to me for several hours. What have you done? She demanded. Where's Lily? Upstairs. She's fine. I am asking about my appointment. I canceled the transfer. You promised to pay. You lied about what it was for. I did not lie. You said you had an infection. My teeth affect my confidence and mental well-being. That is not what you told me. I knew you would judge me. I would have told you I couldn't afford it. You just received a promotion. My promotion does not belong to you. You lived in our house without paying rent for years. I paid more than $2,000 in expenses last month. We raised you. I was your child, not an investment. She gasped. How dare you speak to me that way? The old reflex to apologize rose immediately. My throat tightened. I nearly said I'm sorry, but then I stopped. I remembered the Thanksgiving table. You asked about the money before you asked where I would live. That is unfair. It is exactly what happened. Your father was angry. He expected you to apologize. For what? For making him feel useless in his own home. The truth had slipped out. Dad did not hate needing help. He hated receiving it from a daughter he believed should remain beneath him. I did not make him useless, I said. He chose to save his money while spending mine. That money was set aside for the camper. Your father has worked hard his entire life. He deserves something enjoyable. And what did I deserve? She said nothing. A safe place to live. Savings tires that weren't bald. You are young, she said. You can rebuild. She spoke as if my future were an endless resource they were entitled to consume. Open the utility accounts in your own names, I said. We cannot afford the deposits. Use the camper fund. That money is not for bills. Neither was mine. I ended the call. Then I sat on the edge of Nadia's bathtub and cried so quietly no one heard me. For almost 10 minutes, I held my phone and considered calling Mom back. Not because she was right, because disappointing her still felt physically painful. I typed, I'm sorry things got this bad, then deleted it. That apology would have become an invitation. I put the phone down and let myself cry until the urge passed. On Thursday evening, my father arrived at Nadia's apartment. His pounding shook the picture beside the door. Claire, Walter began barking. Nadia stepped out of the hallway holding her phone. Do you want building security? Not yet. Dad hit the door again. You've caused enough damage. Open this door. I moved toward it before I could stop myself. My hand closed around the doorknob. For 1 second, I nearly opened it. I imagined his face when he saw me. I imagined apologizing just to make the shouting stop. Then Nadia gently placed her hand over mine. You don't have to. I released the knob. What do you want? I called through the door. You're coming home. You told me to leave. I expected you to calm down and apologize. For being called a parasite. For the way you've behaved since you started earning money. What way is that? Like you don't need us. The sentence sounded less like anger than fear. He would rather destroy me than accept that I could survive without his approval. I'm not coming home. You think those people are your family now? Dad's voice grew louder. Friends disappear when things get difficult. Blood is all you have. Blood threw me out after dinner. I taught you a lesson. No. You gave me a reason to stop paying. His fist struck the door. A neighbor opened his apartment across the hall. Sir, stop hitting the door. Dad turned toward him. This is between me and my daughter. It stopped being private when you started shaking the building. Nadia raised her phone. Security is on the way. Dad lowered his voice. Come to the diner Saturday and tell everyone what you've done. I will. You will apologize. Number. The anger on his face disappeared. What replaced it was uncertainty. He had spent my entire life believing that no was something he could punish out of me. This is not over, he said. His footsteps faded down the hallway. The building manager arrived a few minutes later and documented what happened. No police. No court. No dramatic arrest. Only a warning that my father could not return. That was enough. Later, I sat on the kitchen floor with Walter beside me. My hands would not stop shaking. Nadia lowered herself across from me. I almost opened the door, I said. But you didn't. I kept thinking maybe I was being cruel. He came to someone else's home and hit the door because you would not obey him. I still feel guilty. You have been trained to. I looked toward the hallway. What if Lily cannot speak on Saturday? Then you speak for yourself. My phone buzzed. A message from Lily. I know what they said. I don't know if I can talk in front of everyone, but I'll try. I read it twice. Then I replied, you do not owe me a performance. Tell the truth, only if you feel safe. She sent back, I'm tired of being scared. Saturday morning, Rose's diner remained closed to regular customers. Our relatives filled the long tables near the windows. My parents sat together in the center. Mom wore no makeup and held a tissue. Dad had both hands flat on the table as if he were chairing a meeting. Grandma Ruth sat beside Aunt Rose. Uncle Victor, 2 cousins, and several family friends occupied the other seats. Lily sat at the far end with both hands wrapped around an untouched mug of hot chocolate. When I entered, every conversation stopped. Dad pointed toward an empty chair. Sit down. I would rather stand. This attitude is exactly why we are here. Rose stepped behind the counter. We are here to listen to both sides without attacking anyone. Mom dabbed her eyes. I do not want to fight. I only want my daughter back. The performance began immediately. Dad placed a hand on her shoulder. She has barely slept. I looked at Mom. Did you tell everyone why I left? You walked out after a family disagreement. Dad ordered me out. He was angry. He told me to be gone by Sunday. Dad leaned forward. I told you it was time to stop using money to control the household. How did I control you? You questioned our spending. Because I was paying for it. There you go again. Rose looked at him. Raymond did. Claire paid the utilities. She contributed. Did she buy groceries? She ate them too. The refrigerator, I asked. Dad's mouth tightened. The family used it. The car insurance? You volunteered. Mom's dental treatment. Mom began crying harder. I cannot believe you would discuss my private health in front of everyone. You told them I abandoned you financially. They should know what you asked me to finance. It was necessary. Veneers. Grandma Ruth looked at my mother. Veneers. Mom pressed the tissue against her nose. My teeth have affected my confidence for years. Rose stared at her. Did you tell Claire you had an infection? I was afraid she would say no. The diner became very quiet. I removed one sheet of paper from my bag. This is what I paid between August and Thanksgiving. I handed it to Rose. She read the total aloud. $9,574. Dad leaned back. She is including personal expenses. Which ones? I asked. He did not answer. Rose passed the sheet to Grandma. It traveled around the table. Electricity, gas, internet, groceries, insurance, refrigerator, car repairs, Lily's laptop, Mom's supposed medical treatment, Thanksgiving dinner. When Uncle Victor finished reading it, he placed the page down carefully. You let her spend nearly $10,000 in 4 months. She lived there rent-free, Dad said. Victor looked at him. 1 bedroom in that house does not cost $2,400 a month. She offered to help, Mom said. I offered because you said you had nothing. We did not have enough. You had more than $8,000 saved. Dad struck the table with his palm. That account is none of your business. Grandma Ruth removed her glasses. Is it true? It was money I had set aside. For the camper, Lily asked. Dad turned toward her. Stay out of this. Her fingers shook around her mug. For a moment, I thought she would lower her head. Instead, she said no. The word was barely louder than a whisper. Dad stared at her. What did you say? I said no. Mom reached toward her. Sweetheart, Claire has confused you. She did not confuse me. Lily's voice trembled. I heard you planning it. Mom's hand stopped. Rose looked at her. Planning what? Lily swallowed. Dad said they should wait until Claire paid November. Mom said once the dental money cleared, they would not need her anymore. That is not what we said, Dad snapped. It is. You misunderstood. I wrote it down that night because I thought maybe I was remembering it wrong. Mom began sobbing. Look what Claire has done. Lily is writing down private conversations now. I wrote it down because you both kept telling me things had not happened when I heard them happen. I understood exactly what she meant. When manipulation lasts long enough, memory becomes something you stop trusting. Grandma Ruth turned toward Mom. Did you say you would not need Claire anymore? Mom shook her head. No, that is being twisted. What did you mean? Rose asked. Mom looked around the diner, desperate for a safer answer. I meant we would not need as much help after Raymond finished paying for the camper. No one moved. Dad closed his eyes. Mom continued speaking faster. We only needed Claire to cover the house a little longer so Raymond's deposit would stay untouched. The diner went completely silent, not the awkward silence of people avoiding conflict. The heavy silence that comes when a lie finally collapses under its own weight. Mom froze. She had heard herself too late. Grandma Ruth placed the expense sheet on the table. Then neither was Claire's money meant for your bills. Dad's face turned dark red. You are all twisting this. Uncle Victor stared at him. No one twisted what Elaine just said. Dad stood. I will not be judged for accepting help from my own daughter. You did not accept help, I said. You hid your money, lied about what you needed, and waited until I paid for Thanksgiving before throwing me out. I raised you. Yes, I paid for food, school clothes, braces, college. You were my father, and that means nothing. It means you did what parents are supposed to do. It does not mean you own my adult life. His hand curled beside him. You have become arrogant. No, I stopped being afraid of disappointing you. Dad pointed toward me. You canceled the utilities and left your mother without medical care. I removed my payment method. You could open your own accounts. And veneers are not emergency medicine. We could not afford the deposits, Mom cried. You could afford a camper deposit. That money was not for household bills, Dad said. The sentence hung in the air. Even he seemed to understand what it revealed. I looked at him. Neither was mine. Mom stood and reached toward me. Claire, please, we can fix this. I did not move. How? You can come home. Dad looked sharply at her, but she continued. We will clear the boxes from your room. Your father can apologize for losing his temper. And the bills. You could restart the internet first, she said quickly. Then the insurance. We could decide on a fair amount for everything else. Rose closed her eyes. Even after being exposed, Mom's version of reconciliation began with restoring my payments. You do not want me back, I said. You want the accounts back. That is cruel. It is true. We are your family. Family does not wait until the bills clear before throwing someone out. Dad pushed his chair back. If you walk out of here without apologizing, you are no longer my daughter. The room held its breath. A year earlier, that sentence would have destroyed me. A week earlier, I might have begged him to take it back. Now I saw it for what it was. The final threat of a man whose other tools had stopped working. You called me a parasite, I said. You used my savings, lied about medical care, and told everyone I abandoned you. Now you are offering to keep me as a daughter only if I resume paying. That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said. I removed the house key from my key ring and placed it on the table. You do not get to erase me every time I stop being useful. Mom covered her mouth. Dad stared at the key. Lily stood. I'm leaving with Claire. He turned toward her. You sit down. She flinched. I looked at her. You do not have to prove anything. She took a shaky breath. I'm not proving anything. I just don't want to sit here while they lie. You live under my roof, Dad said. For now. The words were quiet. They hit harder than shouting. Grandma Ruth stood next. Raymond. I am ashamed of you. His face changed. Grandma had defended him through layoffs, debt, and years of angry behavior. He had expected her loyalty to be automatic. Aunt Rose walked around the counter and stopped beside me. I'm sorry I called before asking for your side. Uncle Victor nodded. So am I. Not everyone apologized. One cousin muttered that family money should remain private. Another said children still owed their parents respect. But the wall Dad had built around his story was gone. No one could unknow what Mom had admitted. Outside, Lily climbed into Nadia's car with me. For the first mile, she said nothing. Then she began laughing and crying at the same time. I thought I was going to throw up. You were brave. My legs are still shaking. Mine too. Did you see Dad's face when Grandma said she was ashamed? I did. I have never seen him look small. Neither had I. For years, Dad's power depended on everyone agreeing that his anger was larger than their truth. At the diner, the truth finally became larger. The following week, Aunt Rose and Uncle Victor accompanied me to collect the rest of my belongings. My parents had stacked my boxes in the garage. My desk was missing. Where is it? I asked. Dad crossed his arms. It is in my office. I bought it. You bought it while living here. Rose stepped forward. That does not make it yours. He glared at her. Whose side are you on? The side where people do not steal desks from their children. He dragged the desk from the spare room, scratching one leg across the floor. He watched my face, waiting for a reaction. I gave him none. The damage was small. More importantly, it was mine to repair. Mom stood in the kitchen doorway. You're taking everything. I'm taking my belongings. What about the refrigerator? I'm leaving it. The living room television. That too. She frowned. You expect us to be grateful. Number. The answer surprised her. I had finally stopped expecting gratitude from people who believed generosity was their right. When the last box was loaded, Dad held out his hand. House key. I placed it in his palm. Then I held out mine. My spare car key. I don't know where it is. Lily stood behind him. It is in the kitchen drawer beside the coupons. His eyes flashed toward her. She did not look away. Dad returned with the key and held it between two fingers. You think keys and passwords make you independent? No. Choosing what I tolerate does. You will come crawling back when your friends get tired of you. Then I will solve that problem if it happens. You know nothing about the real world. I looked at the house, the broken porch step, and the camper brochure sticking out of the recycling bin. I have been paying for your real world for months. His fingers opened. The key dropped into my hand. 3 weeks later, I moved into a studio apartment above a dry cleaner. The bathroom tiles were brown. The kitchen had one narrow counter. The bedroom and living room were the same space. The radiator clanked at night. I loved it. After paying the deposit, first month's rent, and buying a used mattress, I had less than $500. My first dinner was takeout noodles eaten on the floor. Nadia and Marcus helped me repair the scratched desk. Walter slept beneath it like he was supervising. When they left, the apartment became completely quiet. For a moment, I expected the silence to feel lonely. Instead, it felt safe. No footsteps stopped outside my door. No one invented emergencies after payday. No one reminded me that the roof above me created a debt. I rebuilt slowly. I replaced my tires. I opened a new savings account. Every payday, I transferred a small amount. $50. Then $75. Then $100. The numbers were modest, but they moved in the right direction. At work, I began training new employees and coordinating patient referrals for a second clinic. My manager asked whether I wanted to prepare for a future supervisory role. It was not an instant transformation. I did not become wealthy. I did not suddenly have a perfect life, but my future had started moving again. Lily and I spoke almost every day. I helped her complete financial aid forms and compare college housing costs. Our parents delayed providing several documents until Grandma Ruth intervened. Eventually, they cooperated. Dad told relatives I had turned Lily against him. I had not. I had simply shown her that his version of the world was not the only one available. Without my payments, my parents adjusted. Mom found part-time work at a tax office. Dad accepted additional warehouse shifts. They canceled the camper and lost part of the deposit. They opened utility accounts in their own names. They canceled streaming services and stopped eating out so often. They survived. That mattered. My money had never been the only thing keeping them alive. It had only protected them from discomfort. 9 months after Thanksgiving, Lily moved into her college dorm. Our parents attended, but Dad spent most of the afternoon complaining about the parking fee and telling her the room was too small. You should commute from home, he said. This place is a waste of money. I'm staying, Lily replied. You will be back within a month. Then I will come back because I choose to. Not because you scared me. Dad stared at her. I recognized the expression. It was the same one he wore when I calmly agreed to leave. Control depended on predicting our fear. Neither of us behaved predictably anymore. That evening, after our parents left, Lily and I sat on her dorm floor eating pizza. She looked around the small room. I keep expecting Dad to come back and tell me I'm not allowed to stay. He may call and try. What should I do? Let the phone ring. She smiled. That simple? No, but simple and easy are not the same thing. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Thank you for leaving first. The sentence hurt and healed me at the same time. For months, I had worried leaving meant abandoning her. Now I understood something. Sometimes the first person to leave a harmful family does not abandon the others. Sometimes she proves the door opens. 1 year after the Thanksgiving that ended my old life, I hosted dinner in my apartment. There were 5 people around the second-hand table. Lily, Nadia, Marcus, Aunt Rose, and me. Walter wore an orange bandana and waited beneath the table for turkey. The plates did not match. The table leaned slightly to one side. I burned the first batch of rolls. No one criticized me. No one calculated what the meal had cost. No one demanded payment before dessert. Nadia lifted her glass. To Claire, who learned that paying every bill does not make a house a home. Marcus raised his. To Lily, who escaped without stealing any furniture. Lily laughed. Rose raised her glass last. To family that knows how to apologize. We touched our glasses together. For a moment, I remembered the previous Thanksgiving. Dad's pointing finger. Mom asking about the transfer. Lily's frightened face. The food cooling on plates I had bought. The memory still hurt. Healing had not erased it. It had only stopped the memory from deciding what happened next. Later, while we packed leftovers, Lily handed me an envelope. Mom asked me to give you this. My name was written across the front in her handwriting. What did she say? That she misses you. Did she apologize? Not exactly. What did she ask for? Lily looked down. They are selling the house. Dad's hours were cut again, and Mom wants to know whether you might help with the deposit on an apartment. I stared at the envelope. 1 year had passed. They had lost the camper. They were losing the house. They had watched both daughters step beyond their control. And Mom's attempt to reconnect still arrived wrapped around a financial request. Are you going to open it? Lily asked. I walked to the small table beside my door. A ceramic bowl sat there holding my apartment key and my car key. Only 2 keys, both mine. I placed the sealed envelope in the drawer beneath them. Not tonight. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? I'm trying to stop carrying what they did. Does that mean you will let them back into your life? Number. She looked at me. Why not? Because forgiving someone does not require giving them access to hurt you again. After everyone left, I stood beside the window and watched passing headlights move across the wall. For most of my life, I thought dignity was something other people gave you when you behaved well enough. I believed respect had to be earned through usefulness. I thought a good daughter stayed paid, fixed, forgave, and remained silent. I was wrong. That Thanksgiving, my father called me a parasite and ordered me out. He believed he was taking away my place in the family. What he actually took away was the last reason I had to keep sacrificing myself for people who confused control with love. For the first time in my life, every bill in the room was mine. But so was every key. The letter remained unopened in the drawer. And even now, one question stays with me. Would you have opened my mother's letter or left it sealed?